I'm really excited to be here today. I'm Abhishek Lal. I'm a product manager with AWS, leading the effort for AWS Service Catalog. As you are aware, this service was announced yesterday. I'm so excited to be able to talk about it, give you an overview. Over the next 45 minutes, I intend to go over describing the product, show you a live demo, fingers crossed, and would love to take some questions at the end of the session. There's a lot of things I want to get through, but I will make sure I finish in time and get some questions in. Today, IT and developers lack common ground. IT is driven by control, visibility, compliance, whereas developers are always looking to be more agile, more self-service, reduce time to market. Both of these priorities can sometimes create a conflict. It doesn't really have to be that way. With AWS Service Catalog, we actually believe that we can bring both of them together to work in synergy and achieve both their goals. AWS Service Catalog allows developers to work using a personalized portal which shows services provided by their IT administrators. IT administrators get to use standardized architectures, best practices, and create templates which conform to business goals. From a developer perspective, they want to be able to get fast provisioning. So an IT administrator can create and manage portfolios. Portfolios are groups of services which they provide. Custom products and services can be created within these portfolios, and then grant very specific fine-grained access to developers. This is the first layer of control which administrators get. They get to decide which developers see which services. Now, the value add which comes from administrators doing this is for developers to achieve self-service, but with IT approval. So anything from finding and launching products to automated provisioning, as well as not having to manage the underlying resources created, are all benefits which developers see using the AWS Service Catalog. I want to walk you through some of the motions and the different experiences which each user goes through before we jump into a demo, just to set some context. As you get started with AWS Service Catalog, the first step is for administrators to come in and create a portfolio. A portfolio is a grouping mechanism. It's a folder kind of structure which helps you organize the services and the products you want to provide to developers. You can think of organizing portfolio by roles. You can think of organizing them by departments. If you're a service provider which serves different customers, you could create portfolio per customer. Once you have created a portfolio, the next step is to create customized products and add to that. The product type which shown here is a CloudFormation template. So a CloudFormation template allows you, using infrastructure as code principles, to define all the underlying resources and configuration needed to actually provision the service and deliver that to the end user. We will go into much more detail on that as we move forward. But for right now, As creating a product, I provide certain amount of metadata, a name, description, and then I can provide the CloudFormation template. As an admin, I continue to populate my portfolio with several products. And once that is done, I am ready to grant access to developers. That step of granting access to developers allows admins to control what individual developers see. Another step listed here is constraints, and we will talk about that in much more detail as we go forward. From an end user perspective, when a developer or a line of business application user logs into their portal, they would see a very, very personalized list of services which they can provision. They can launch products, which takes them through a very simple experience of taking some parameters. And once they click launch after providing the values, CloudFormation kicks in. And this is where you get the self-service automated experience of all your stacks, one or more getting deployed. The last step shown here is notifications. Notifications is a way of keeping both the admin informed as well as the user informed of actionable items. So when a stack is ready, a user can go and start using that service or that application or that development environment. When a user launches a stack, the admin can get informed about that. With this as the overall flow, I want to move into a demo in which I'm going to start with the admin side, go through the motion of creating a product and a portfolio, and then switch over to the user side and go and launch. So here I am at the AWS Management Console, and I'm just going to use my credentials to log in. Oh, I'm so sorry. Thank you so much. Okay. That looks better. So I've logged in using my credentials. As an administrator, you can see there are three key things I can do. We just talked about creating and managing portfolios. We talked about adding customized products and granting users access. With that guidance, I'll get started. And you can see I'm straight away put into the create portfolio experience because I do not have any existing portfolios. Quickly type in. I find it very hard to type and talk, so I apologize. But hopefully this will go well. You can see I can provide tags here. Tags is a very, very good mechanism for you to track usage, to be able to attribute usage to departments, to do billing, and all of those benefits which you can get. So tags are supported all through and through between portfolios, products, as well as the stacks we launch, and you'll see all of that. For now, I'm not going to put a tag on the portfolio. And you can see with that simple few bits of information, my portfolio is ready, and I'm ready to add products in there. The first product I'll create is a simple development environment. I can select a logo to help users graphically see. So I'm creating a LAMP stack as a dev environment. So I'm going to just select a logo for that. You can see there are 3 steps here for creating a product. The basic details, some additional optional information, and then the version details. With the first step done, I'll move into the second one. Here, you can provide support information which is relevant specifically to your administrators and your IT department. So users can contact the right first line of support if they run into any issues or have questions about these products and services. In this case, I will go ahead and add a tag. Now, the beauty about doing that at this layer is that anyone launching this product will have all the resources created by that launch tagged with this value. They can't forget it. They can't override it. It's easy and streamlined for them to do the right thing, to tag appropriately. The last step is where I provide the CloudFormation template. I have one here conveniently, and I'm just going to call it the first version. You can imagine using versions to provide different configurations of products, or you can think of it as a time evolution when you're updating your template and adding new things. You can select versions based on that. With all the information provided, I can quickly review. Hit continue, and there we have our development environment with LAMP stack available. So in these very few easy steps, as an administrator, I created a portfolio and added a product for that. The other steps listed here are things we spoke about: constraints, users and groups, where we can specifically grant them access, as well as sharing with other AWS accounts. One of the things we very commonly hear from customers is that they have several accounts, be it across organization, within a department, across departments, and we do not see why you would want to recreate portfolios, recreate products across all of the accounts. Hence, we have sharing across accounts of portfolios. So you can create your portfolio in a single account and make it visible to other administrators in other accounts. In the interest of time, I'm going to skip these steps and actually switch gears and move to the end user demo. This would be as an end user logging in and now consuming these services. Quickly log in to the console. There we go. Now, this is the end user's dashboard. You can see it's a very personalized experience of only seeing services which have been provided by their trusted IT department or trusted approved vendors. So they can go ahead and use these services with confidence, not have to assume the risk of breaking compliance, or about knowing all the nitty-gritty details of configuring underlying resources. End users can be line of business application users who do not know how to configure VPCs or subnets or what are the latest and greatest values to provide in different RDS components. They can go and get a very, very simple experience to provision their services. I'm going to pick the development environment, click in, and look at the details. You can see all the version information, the support information, all of that shows up here. And once I know that this is the product I want, I can jump in and launch the product. Launch again gives me a very simple 4-step wizard. The first step is to name my stack. So I'm going to call it my dev box. Choose a version. And here I want to highlight self-managed. This is another key value add we are giving to users. If you're a line of business application user, you may not want to manage the underlying resources needed to run and provision your application. You only care about using your application. If it requires EC2 instances, if it requires RDS instances set up, you do not want to own those. From a billing perspective, IT wants to control cost and manage cost by taking all the resources in a pre-specified role. Both of those can be achieved using AWS Service Catalog. Instead of a self-managed version here, the administrator can decide to publish a centrally managed version of this product. And if the user chose that, what it would mean is that all the resources which were needed to provision that stack would go into the administrator's specified role. They would not show up in your account. So that way, you don't have to manage them. Your admin can keep track of them, as well as keep them updated. For now, I'm going to choose the self-managed and move forward. The next step you see here is a very easy graphical representation of the parameters which were needed by the CloudFormation template. If folks are familiar with CloudFormation, it allows you to pass in parameters when creating a stack. What we have done is enhance that experience, where you can provide user-friendly labels, like asking a question and allowing the user to select from predefined values, thereby simplifying and streamlining their experience of customizing the stack or customizing your service. Another reason why these constraints are interesting is because there are cost management tools. If you create a dev environment and you want to make sure that no one ever runs it on an extra large instance or an 8x large instance, you can constrain that. You can make sure that value does not show up here. On the other hand, if your line of business application is compute heavy, and putting it on a micro instance would never work, then you can remove that value. So in both cases of ease of use as well as cost control, constraints are really, really valuable. Once you've provided those, you come to tags. And notice here the tag which I had on the product cost center shows up here, but I cannot remove it. It's immutable at this point, which is again very valuable from a compliance standpoint. I can add any tags which are specific and relevant to me, or which I am required by my IT department to further add, such as a project name or an indicator, and then quickly go review all the information I have. With this in place, I can do launch. And again, like I said, CloudFormation steps in here, and it will go and provision all the resources which are required by you to actually fulfill this service. As an end user, I can see what has just been provisioned for me. dig into the details, and see the outputs. Outputs are another CloudFormation construct, where essentially you're able to pass parameter values like the endpoint URL or the machine name which was configured, so that users can now pick that up, go log in, and be productive right away. I have other options available to me, such as calling support if I need more help. And in this case, because I had used a self-managed stack, I do see all the resources which were provisioned as part of this stack. The demo gods were happy today. So with that, I gave you a brief look at what it would feel like as an end user and as an administrator to interact with the service. Does it look easy? Yes? Cool. Okay. In the next section of the presentation, I want to walk through more capabilities and concepts about all the things which we just saw, to give you a next level of detail into each of them. From a portfolio perspective, like I said, think of it as collections of products. They are your unit of managing permissions, constraints, and tags. We also see the value in being able to share portfolios across accounts. When we think about a product is an incarnation of the service you are providing. This can take many forms. It can take a dev box which has resources provisioned. It could be an application that you are provisioning, or an account you are creating somewhere. Whatever your service is what gets packaged as a product. You have some metadata, logo, owner, support details, tags, as well as, in this case, the CloudFormation template. I'll take a little time here to talk about AWS CloudFormation. This is an existing service. It's one of the early services in AWS. And it really simplifies both your provisioning as well as your management in AWS. You can think of service architectures, standardization, or taking that complexity of a service architecture and representing that in a JSON code format. When these applications are created, they are launched into stacks. Stacks are the realization of a template. All of this architecture, a single instance of it, is a stack. You can do version control on it. You can replicate it. So once you create a dev environment, you can create several test environments. You can go within different regions and provision environments. All of that ease of use comes by using AWS CloudFormation. The alternatives to doing this would be things such as manual ticketing requests, where you log a ticket to your IT department or to your service provider, and you say, hey, I need to provision something. It could be approvals, it could be reviews, it could be procurement. All of those different things can be circumvented by capturing all of the configuration and deployment information in a CloudFormation template, and using that as your infrastructure as code specification. Constraints we spoke about a little. And now that I've introduced CloudFormation, I'll talk about how do you define a constraint. The constraints you saw in terms of parameters, where you can restrict the number of values or the allowed values which someone can select, comes by defining them in a CloudFormation-like language. When you think about scoping, we can give you scoping in terms of the portfolio. So a constraint would apply to all products in a portfolio. It could be on a user basis, where you say any product this user consumes, apply this constraint, or self-managed versus centrally managed. Those could be another kind of constraint we allow you to specify, and thus gain that value of separating management of infrastructure to provisioning and using the end application. The last part of where constraints really get applied is what you saw in that form when you were getting ready and clicking launch. They are translated for you in a very simple way as an end user and give you a very clear guide rail based path to go configure and customize your service. We spoke about launch context. There is the self-managed launch context in which user accounts contain all the underlying resources. They are owned and managed by the resource, by the owner, by the user. So if you, for example, jumped into the EC2 console after launching your stack using AWS Service Catalog, you would then see your EC2 instances there. You could manage them from there. You have full access from them. On the other hand, if you did centrally managed, your EC2 console would be empty. You would not have the access to be able to go and modify those underlying resources. This can be a very, very good tool in terms of enforcing compliance or managing configuration drift or preventing it. From an access perspective, we had IAM roles, groups, and users. Any IAM principle to which you can attach access to a portfolio. End users have access to launch products. If you're an admin, you need access to create a portfolio and add products. There are several advanced scenarios which we are considering, and we will provide some API access to those, and we'll talk about that very soon. I want to spend a little bit time on notifications. Notifications play a key part in terms of giving you that good end-to-end experience. As an administrator, you are challenged time and again with a critical update, a critical security fix, and you need a targeted notification out to people who are using a specific version of the product. Notifications can help you achieve that targeting. It could be an informative message saying, I have created a new version, or it could be a critical update which you send out with a red bang and say everyone needs to upgrade to their stacks. For an end user, once you get this notification, it's very challenging to then go and do the right thing in terms of figuring out what is needed, how do they go get the right template, do all the right updates. Actionable notifications make this very, very easy. The value proposition here is that when you get a notification that there's a critical update, it comes with a single button you can click and say, upgrade my stack to that particular version. So all the correlation towards which product was updated, who had the stack running, and informing them with a single click to be able to go and upgrade that stack is the value prop of notifications. Of course, no AWS service would be complete without APIs. So we have several extensibility APIs. We see a lot of scenarios where we can extend this product. Partners can extend this product. Customers can customize the experiences for users. The first set of scenarios listed here are bulk assignment of permissions and product ingestion. So these are admin scenarios. You can think of, you have your products in a separate catalog and you want to import them. You have hundreds of users to manage. You don't want to do that with clicks on a UI. You want to do that using commandlets or command line interfaces. Bulk updates to listings. Once you've created a bunch of listings, you want to write a simple tool and make the updates in Excel and update the call extension or update email addresses. All of those are scenarios which can benefit with using APIs. The next scenario about central catalog integration comes from the user perspective, where the end user has a more customized experience. This could be your own company's portal. This could be another service catalog product which you already consume. But you want that customized experience to give you the same power which AWS Service Catalog gives you. So those APIs are available for you to read products as well as go ahead and launch instances of it. And finally, reporting and metrics. Those are always very, very useful scenarios in creating experiences about billing, about usage tracking, utilization, or any other important scenarios from a business perspective which you want to report on. That was all the information which I wanted to share for today. I've left some links up here for more information. We have Jeff Barr's blog. You can sign up on amazon.com/service catalog for more information. We'll be sending out more information. And I've put my Twitter handle on there in case you want to get in touch. With that, I would like to open last 10 minutes up for questions. Please. Good. So the first question is this available in GovCloud? This is the perfect time for me to introduce Chris Whitaker. He answers the tough questions. He's the dev manager for Service Catalog as well as CloudFormation. I'll speak for you, Chris. We are prioritizing which regions we go out to. Customers are the main way we are going to prioritize this. The service is regionalized. So initially, US East and US West 2 are the first two regions we are targeting. But based on feedback, we'd love to prioritize GovCloud too.
See, this is the thing. It's like whatever I heard yesterday and today is always in the pub, and that's the problem. That in GovCloud, it should be the other way around. GovCloud.
I hear you. It's the customer voice. No, I completely agree. Are there other questions, folks? Please. Beautiful. So two questions. I'll start with the first one. I spoke about other product types outside of CloudFormation. CloudFormation itself is extensible. You can have custom resources, resources which have nothing to do with AWS or they are higher level abstractions of AWS resources. So you can use CloudFormation to orchestrate those resources in there. We do have on our roadmap to allow other product types in here, and I would love to sync up about that. The second question was, if I'm using AWS Service Catalog, what about the other AWS services? Do I not see them, or what's my console experience? With Service Catalog, we will ensure that when you log in, you only need permissions to Service Catalog to finish all your operations. If a user decides to deny access to EC2, access to S3, and any of those, it is their choice. It is not something which the Service Catalog controls per se. So a user just needs access to Service Catalog to be able to come in and finish all their actions in terms of that. Please.
So, do you kind of segregate or customize the catalog based on the master account, like AWS account? Like you said that you can replicate, you don't have to recreate, but can I have a customized catalog by account?
So the question was, how do we segregate catalogs, or can I have a customized catalog by account? I'll clarify in two ways. First, I'll give you the end user perspective. If you noticed in the end user portal, there was no portfolio. I only see services. So from an end user perspective, you're already seeing a mashed up list of only the services you have access to. These could be coming from a single portfolio. These could be coming from multiple portfolios. You would only see that. From an admin perspective, I can create a catalog in my account, keep that as the master catalog, it's my catalog, and then send a share request to another account. If the other account accepts it, they will be able to see a read-only view of my catalog, and then be able to put it in their portfolios, give their users access to it, and so on and so forth. Next question, please. Right. Very, very good question. Is there a way to limit the number of stacks a user can provision? One of the first constraints that we are hearing across the board is launch count of a product. So it is very, very much on the roadmap, and we are working towards that. But it would be across all accounts, a central tracking of how many instances of a product has been launched, and the ability for an admin to constrain that number. Please. Cool. So the question was, when a template is provisioned, does it go to the master account or the user account? In the self-managed case, which is one of the options which an admin can do, whichever user is logged in and creating the stack, all the resources, for that template go into that stack. In a centrally managed case, there is a predefined role which sits on the product itself. And every time a template is provisioned, all the resources go in the central role, and a shadow stack is available in the user account just to be able to click update, click delete, and go from there. I'll follow up on that question just after. We can work with Chris. Any others, please? I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. Awesome. Very, very good question. Can I actually use CloudFormation to go create portfolios and add products in the Service Catalog? Absolutely, that is a scenario. Just as Service Catalog will integrate with all other services, the newly announced AWS config, existing CloudTrail, CloudFormation is also one. I do want to say the scenario we clearly see is sometimes adding products. Creating portfolios is more a higher level activity, so maybe not right away. But all of those are clearly on the roadmap. Please.
How are notifications distributed? SNS, SQS?
Cool. Very good question. How are notifications distributed? We are working on the details of that. Right now, you definitely saw the portal view. So you can imagine portal and API. SNS is a very natural aspect of that. So being able to take any user and help them configure and say, all my notifications go to a topic is clearly in our sites. But we're refining our thinking around that scenario. Very good question. Yes, please.
On the parameters, what did they set bigger when they launched? You said that there were some other things they could do with those parameters for UI purposes. Is that in the CloudFormation template?
So the question is that what can you do with the parameters from a UI perspective, and if that is in the CloudFormation template. So in CloudFormation templates, we will help you add additional labels and grouping. You saw I had all those parameters in different groups. In the template itself, we let you specify grouping of parameters as well as helpful labels which can show up for the parameter value. They don't have to be the same as the actual variable which is passed into the template. So that's how we will drive the UI using values you provide in your template.
Is there a way to force, I know you said like the name or the cost center, and they can't change that. But like we have a problem with end users not filling out rest of the characteristics of what they need to do.
Right.
So is there any way to say, look, you have to put your name, you have to put your project code, and not allow them to move forward without having that?
Right. Very good question. So the question here is, I want to enforce tagging. I want to enforce a tag key name, and I want them to add, the user to add the value, not a pre-specified value. Right now, that's not in the product as we speak, but that is very, very good feedback, which we are hearing from a lot of customers, and we'll clearly investigate that. Where in the template, you can say this is a required tag key name, and let the customer specify the value and not let them move forward till they specify the value. Right. Awesome question. So this comes up a lot with cost management. The question is, can I set a life expectancy for my stack? We don't have that today, but we are looking at that scenario set, both from a CloudFormation perspective as well as a service catalog perspective, where you can set a time and your stack will get deleted in there, please.
Do you see being able to set metadata on the product level and pass that in to the template, right? So you have one template that is for dev and UAT, and it behaves differently depending on the product definition, but it's the same template. So you grab the template, and one creates different instances, stop this, right? So it's not user choices, but
That's great. Yeah. Got it. So the question is that do we see scenarios where we can use the same template, the same underlying template, but have it create different configurations of stacks based on which portfolio it lives in or which product it lives in. So some of that, as I mentioned, does come from constraints. Because for the same template, a different set of constraints will lead to different set of parameter values. And thereby, it will create different stacks which may be mutually exclusive. Like you could not have similar stacks based on the kind of constraints which you apply. There's much more detail there, and Chris and I will be available after, which we can talk about. Please.
In case of cross-account service catalogs, when we actually share a particular product portfolio with a different account, is it assumed that all the AMIs are automatically shared with the account so that you can log it in self-managed scenario? And to add to that, in case of self-managed scenario, if an IAM user launches a particular product or a stack at the end of the day, is that user assumed to have all the privileges required to launch those EC2, CDs, all those things, or it's something that fraud will carry forward?
Good. So two questions here. One is, if I create a central account portfolio with products, and I have armies in there and stuff like that, does that carry over when I go and share that in there? Today, from a product catalog perspective, we are only storing the template. So if the template is referencing external items, then sort of it's a little bit on the owner to make sure that the user has access to those items. They are not packaged into the catalog itself. Now, that's very good feedback. We can see of packaging those things all together. So we'll take that for sure. The second question was that as a user, what if I do not have access to certain services which are needed when I click launch? The system is layered on top of IAM roles and privileges. So let's say if you create launch, click launch, and it has to provision something which you do not have access to, the launch will fail. This is the reason why you have centrally managed accounts where you don't have to give the user access to all services, all resources, but rather provision them in a central account which has that access in there. So that should enable that scenario. The question is that is there a plan to support Docker in there along with CloudFormation? We're absolutely looking at all the different product types that make sense for folks to provision. But as a catalog, it's a little bit agnostic of that. We've started with CloudFormation, and we'll continue to evolve as customers tell us what they are. With that, I'm out of time. Thank you so much for staying for the session. Really, really appreciate it.